an agreement between just the player association and the NBA. With that being said, it now has to be ratified by not only the players, I believe isn't it also like the own the I think it's just the players, and there's one other group of body that has to vote on it. But yeah, it has to be voted on now.
Yeah.
But basically it's agreed on. The assumption is they agreed on this because they assume the players will agree on it.
And I don't think that happens. I'm not. It would be nice to have actually lawyer Luke on for this segment. Some takeaways I like. Do you want to summarize it? I'm not great with summarization. They cut the way I read the gist of it is that I don't know if penalization is the right word, but it seems almost like they're trying to create more parity between the league.
So let me break this all down. Okay, super teams. So there's going to be a thing called the upper spending limit that the NBA I'm not going to use that word, but enthusiastically was trying to get, and then the NBA PA was like, yo, if you create an upper spending limit cap, like a hard salary cap, we're gonna go to an NBA lockout. So they just said, fuck it, we're not doing that. Same thing happened with the NBA draft age. NBA draft age not changing because the NBA PA was like, you're gonna get rid of our vets. We don't want to lose vets. And so with that being said, the NBA was like, yeah, with NIL, overtime elite, with the NBL in Australia and the G League, there's so many options for these guys now. There's no need to change the draft age. Those are the first two things. Now, mid-level exceptions. If you're in the luxury tax, goodbye. Danilo Gallinari, John Wall to the Clippers. Another example was, I'm trying to think, just basically where you've seen like teams, I think PJ Tucker was another example, basically where these contending teams were able to go in and get guys under the mid-level exception cap. Yeah, if you're spending too much money, you don't have a mid-level exception. They've removed it. And I had a great graphic earlier or a great article that I read earlier that explained it all down. NBA players can invest in NBA, WNBA teams, sport betting companies, and cannabis. Marijuana is officially off the drug testing, even though marijuana has not been tested since 2019. So let me read every single thing right here. Shout out Mike Virkanov and Shams Charania. The NBA and the National Basketball Players Association reached a tentative deal on a new collective bargaining agreement in the early hours of Saturday morning. The deal still needs to be ratified by players and team governors. That's the other one. I said it was players and there was one other. It's team governors, which are basically like the CEO, aka another name for owners. Or like sometimes the owners aren't the team governors. They like assign out somebody that, who wants to be involved on a daily basis. So it's a 7-year deal. Here's the most important things. NBA players are allowed to invest in NBA, WNBA teams, cannabis, and sports betting teams via an NBA Player Association selected private equity firm. So they're not going to be going out and doing this on their own. They have to hit up, the equity firm that has been selected by the NBA. The players will also have the ability to promote and invest in betting and cannabis. So on their stories, they can go bet on BetMGM or go buy weed from Green Dragon. NBA players will no longer be penalized for using marijuana under an agreement that has been removed. This has been since 2019, but it's officially in language now. Players must play at least 65 games to be eligible for major individual league awards such as MVP. We've talked about this would be a thing that would happen. I personally thought it should be tied to minutes, not games played. Prize money for the championship team of the NBA's in-season tournament beginning this coming season, 2023 to 2024. And if you win, each player gets $500,000. Players attending the NBA Combine will be required to undergo physical exams that will be distributed to select teams based on player projections. Veteran extension limits will increase from 120 to 140%, which will add flexibility and have significant effects quickly. Under the current CBA, teams and players can only increase player salaries by 120% in the first new year of an extension unless the player qualifies as a designated player rookie by making an All-NBA team or makes well below the league's average salary. That means if Jaylen Brown weren't to make an All-NBA team, currently he would make like 4 years, 161. Now he makes like 4 years, 181 if the Celtics were to resign him. And the last thing, the new CBA adds a second tax apron. When reached, will eliminate a team's taxpayer mid-level exception and gives a team a third two-way contract via cap exception. The CBA will also create a new second-round exception that can be used, so teams will no longer need to dip into the mid-level exception to sign second-rounders. What is your initial thoughts on all that? I know it was a lot of information, but that was basically everything going on with, the NBA.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I like in there. I wasn't even aware of the mid-level exemption. I do like the owners not being able to send picks 7 years advanced if they are over the luxury, I believe is what it is.
Is that actually one of the things? Is that like one of the caveats? I didn't read that. So
I believe that's one of the caveats where basically like you'll have an owner come in and it's like, okay, if I'm the GM right now and I'm only, I want to be there for like 3 more years, what is the point of me? Exactly. What is the point of me? Maybe not the Suns, but maybe more of like, Bob Myers, if he was going to stay for like 2 more years, it'd be like, well, if I want to win and I want to win now, what the hell is the point of any pick past my tenure? Like, I want to win now. So it's just, I don't mind that. The weed thing is cool. Sports betting is probably the worst idea I've ever seen with this. I think that is a recipe for disaster. Players already bet. Like, players bet. There are players on NBA teams that bet already, and now legally you can do it. I think that is a huge
I don't think
recipe
they legally
for disaster.
can. I don't know if the league. I don't know if that allows them to bet. I tweeted that there hasn't been a clarification if NBA players are allowed to bet. They are allowed to invest and promote sports betting, but I don't know a lot about betting. I do agree it creates a conflict of interest, right?
Yeah, it's a little slippy. I think it's a little too slippery on the slope here, but
it's suspect. It's suspect. Thomas Perry said it's a bit suspect. It's weird. It's weird. As fans, it's weird.
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of it.
Do we find it weird because our whole lives we've been told that betting is this whole like, what do you call it? What's the right phrase? Voodoo, like, oh my God, if you're an athlete, sports betting terrible. But now it's like, what are your thoughts? Are we looking at it wrong, or are we thinking that because they're athletes are going to be able to contain themselves?
No, it's because they're athletes. I don't have any issue with gambling. I mean, gambling's been out here since the dawn of times, but I don't think the players should be. I just think there's a lot of conflict of interest there. I think it could get
I'm not scared.
A little greasy.
I'm not scared because I think everyone knows, don't be Pete Rose. I think in every sport, there's the thought, don't be Pete Rose. Don't be Pete Rose.
Say I'm a player on the Magic, and I know that we are not trying to win. And I see my win-loss at 31, and I'm like, or I'm on the Rockets. We're not reaching 31.
So you're saying like bet like a season win total?
I'm just saying I think players already. I think there's going to be. It's not like no player in the NBA bets right now. Like
I think players should be able to bet not on their sport. They should be able to bet on, like, if you're an NBA player, you can bet on every sport except NBA. You could bet on like Olympic basketball if you're like not playing or some shit. But my best, what was the best tweet the other day when someone was ripping Calvin Ridley for like making a sports bet and like, all this, and then he's like, nah, bro. He's like, I've learned from my mistake. And he's like, but I did win $32,000. Was like the end of the tweet. It was just like, he's like, I'm remorseful of this. He's like, but hold up. I did win 32 grand. It's just
it's like Calvin Ridley is not the only NFL player throwing bets on the table. So
didn't he not even bet on NFL games? He bet on other shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't even think he bet NFL. I think maybe he did bet on NFL. I know he didn't bet on his team. That was the big thing. He didn't bet on his team. He didn't bet on.
They gave him a year. They slapped him for a year. Jeez.
I'm trying to think what else. I do like the third two-way contract. They brought in another two-way contract because we all agree the two-way contracts have been fantastic. Ish Wainwright's an example of that. Alex Caruso, Austin Reeves, big names that the two ways work. I think that's a great way to develop talent and scour talent. I'm trying to think. Okay, so they did keep the 50 games. So right here, I want to say the new CBA, on one such penalty, the team will lose the ability to sign up, a taxpayer mid-level exception. So, teams like the Warriors and Clippers who have been like feasting off of that, they're going to lose that. So for me, I think the most interesting thing will be the in-season tournament because it'll be soccer style. So we're not going to have any added games except one added game. So if you make it to the finale of the in-season tournament, you will have played 83 games.
Yeah, they saved it with that. If they like added, just 5 games out of the blue, I think no one would really care. It's almost like it's almost like the All-Star game to me. Like none of the players care about the incentive of winning the All-Star game or all the money that's at stake. Like you could throw the winner of the All-Star dunk contest money, and they're like,
what if
it's not really worth it for me?
What if you do, instead of an All-Star game, All-Star weekend, you replace the All-Star game with the in-season tournament championship game? And you still have like the rising star in the dunk and 3-point contest, but instead of an All-Star game, you just have like the All-Star players like go there, stand on the court, wave, say hi, we're an All-Star, maybe do a skills challenge, and then the actual game is the championship game, in-season championship game, where the players are playing for $500,000 each.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it's gonna be like. I'm at face value, I'm not a huge fan of any in-season tournament because it's not soccer. I don't think any of these players, like the top dogs, really care. Like I don't think Jason Tatum cares about winning $500,000 to win the in-season tournament.
Well, are you a soccer fan? Do you follow like Premier League?
No.
All right, so I'm getting back into it. I got a couple of boys who are like really into Premier League. So a lot of times when I go hang out with them, they have Premier League on during the day because it's usually on during the day. And so I'll watch it with them. And I used to want to be a professional soccer player. Like I was really good growing up. I used to spend my summers in Argentina, and I stopped playing soccer because at 12 I was playing U15 soccer in America, and I was playing with kids 3 years older than me, and I went to play in Argentina, who my cousin was on a club team, and I got destroyed, and I quit soccer because I was like, I'm never going to be like, I got destroyed by like these Argentine players because I thought I was so good in America, but then I go to Argentina, I was like below average, and I was like, I'm never playing professionally. But that's here nor there. What I'm talking about is the in-season cups in professional soccer and association football is really exciting because even though it's considered like also a regular season match, it's also like that league cup tournament. Like I think the Premier League, it's called the FA Cup, and like it's technically part of your regular season and it counts towards your standings in the regular season, but it's also the FA Cup, so it's an additional money you can get, and players love that shit because you got like 3 different places you're getting revenue from. So for guys like who are on 2-way contracts or like vet mins, that $500,000, baby, it's like half their salary in like 5 games.
Yeah, it's just Premier League is less than half of what an NBA season is. So if the NBA season was 38 like the Premier League, then yeah, I think an in-season tournament is better. There's more rivalry within soccer. There's more rivalry within Premier League games. Basketball in an NBA season, there's like 10 games that actually are that you actually want to watch.
I know, but I think this drums up that competitiveness.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's just take my Bulls for an example. Like, I don't know. I can't think of a single team we would play right now where it's like, we're starting to see it with a team like maybe Golden State and Memphis. We lost rivalries. Rivalries aren't really much of a thing for the NBA anymore. We're, in the 90s, if you're playing the Detroit Pistons in a regular season game, like all Bulls and Pistons fans, everyone's watching that game. I'm down to try it because they're not adding more games or 1 game for the champion. And yeah, you're right. Like the smaller fish, 100%. So, we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, I think it is something that we'll just have to wait and see. It's a wait and see thing. We don't know how it'll be. But yeah. I'm done with CBA talk. We can sit here and talk about it, but a lot of the stuff that's here, we can't talk about it besides the fact of speculation because we won't know until it's implemented.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pivot here if you're cool with that.
Yeah, it's the last week of basketball.